February 13, 2008, a Bombardier CRJ-200 is cruising at 21,000 feet over the Pacific. The plane has 40 passengers on board. Its destination is Hilo, Hawaii. It flies straight past Hilo. For 18 minutes, air traffic control cannot reach the cockpit. Both pilots are asleep. Every commercial pilot in America passes a medical exam before they are allowed to fly. And somewhere in that exam, every single year, a doctor checks for one specific disease. Not cancer, not heart disease. Sleep apnea. Why? In aviation, sleep isn't a personal problem. It's a systems failure waiting to happen. And finding out why this test exists leads somewhere most aviation videos never go. Here is what passengers don't usually realize about the pilot sitting 30 feet in front of them. Before that pilot was allowed in the cockpit, they passed a Class 1 medical exam. Vision, hearing, cardiovascular, neurological. It is, by design, more thorough than anything most of us have ever done at a doctor's office. Under 40? They do it every year. Over 40? Every 6 months. That is not bureaucracy. That cadence is a decision. And one test in particular, the sleep apnea screening, tells the entire story of why aviation builds safety the way it does. The Epworth Sleepiness Scale is an 8-question survey. It has been around since 1991. It asks things like, how likely are you to fall asleep while sitting and talking to someone? A score above 10 is clinically significant. A score above 16 is severe daytime sleepiness. It takes 3 minutes to fill out. It does not sound like something that should stand between a pilot and a cockpit. But when the FAA added formal sleep apnea screening to every Class 1 medical exam and kept it there permanently, they were not responding to a theory. They were responding to something that had already happened. Something that showed the entire industry that a pilot could fly 20,000 hours without a single incident, pass every medical exam on record, and still be carrying a disease that was quietly dismantling their brain one night at a time. The question isn't whether this test makes sense. The question is why it took so long. The easy answer to why the sleep apnea test is fatigue. Aviation has known about fatigue forever. Crews flying across time zones. Early, 5:40 a.m. showtimes. 8 legs of short-haul flying, 17 minutes on the ground between each one, then doing it again the next day. And the day after that, the FAA has rules about rest. Minimum hours between shifts, maximum flight hours per day. These rules exist because the science is not ambiguous. Sleep-deprived people make mistakes. A 2000 study published in Occupational and Environmental Medicine found that after just 17 to 19 hours without sleep, cognitive performance drops to the equivalent of a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05%. In many countries, that is legally drunk. So yes, fatigue, that's the easy answer. But sleep apnea is something specific, something different. It's not about how many hours you were scheduled to work. It's about what happens to your body during the hours you're supposed to be recovering. And that story is darker. Obstructive sleep apnea is a mechanical problem. The muscles in your throat relax during sleep. Tissue collapses, your airway closes. You stop breathing, sometimes for 10 seconds, sometimes for a minute, hundreds of times per night. Each time, your brain partially wakes you up to restart the airway. You never reach deep, restorative sleep. You never actually recover. Now add this. Commercial aircraft cabins are pressurized to the equivalent of roughly 8,000 feet above sea level. At that altitude, a healthy passenger's blood oxygen saturation drops from about 97% at the gate to around 93% in the air. That is a normal, expected change in a healthy adult. A pilot with untreated severe sleep apnea can drop their oxygen saturation to 70 or 80% during sleep. That is the oxygen level of someone at high altitude without supplemental oxygen. And because the cognitive damage accumulates gradually, not in a single bad night, the pilot often has no idea anything is wrong. They are not tired, they are impaired, and impaired feels like tired. Captain Scott Altman had between 20,000 and 25,000 hours of flight experience. 8,000 of those hours were as captain on the CRJ-65, the same aircraft family as the plane he flew on February 13, 2008. He was not a rookie. He was not reckless. He was, by every measurable standard, a safe pilot. That morning, he and First Officer Dylan Shepley had been working a schedule that required a 5:40 a.m. showtime for 3 consecutive days. The day of the incident was the 3rd straight day. Both pilots had started duty at 5:40 a.m. Halfway through a routine 51-minute hop from Honolulu to Hilo, both fell asleep. Air traffic controllers tried to reach them for 18 minutes. 12 separate calls, no response. The CRJ flew 26 nautical miles past Hilo into open ocean. There was 1.5 hours of fuel on board, but only 22 minutes of margin left on the round trip back. 3 months later, Captain Oltmann was diagnosed with severe obstructive sleep apnea. The snoring, the obesity, the blood pressure that required 2 medications, it was all there. His doctor had been told about it 1 month before the incident. The sleep apnea test was never ordered. The NTSB's conclusion was blunt. The captain had a disease, the system had no mechanism to find it, and both of those facts mattered equally. The NTSB issued its final report on Flight 1002 in August 2009. Among its recommendations, the FAA should change its medical application to ask pilots about sleep apnea history and symptoms. The FAA should build real screening into the annual exam. 4 years passed. In November 2013, 4 years after that recommendation, FAA Federal Air Surgeon Dr. Fred Tilton announced a new policy in the Federal Air Surgeon's Medical Bulletin. It was straightforward. Any pilot with a BMI of 40 or greater would have to see a board-certified sleep specialist and be treated for sleep apnea before receiving a medical certificate. The FAA would then lower the BMI threshold over time until every at-risk pilot had been screened. The reaction was immediate and furious. The Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association wrote to FAA Administrator Michael Huerta, calling the policy inappropriate. They argued it bypassed the formal rulemaking process, the public comment period, that lets affected parties push back. They were right about the process, even if the safety logic was sound. Senator James Inhofe of Oklahoma, a licensed pilot and AOPA member, co-introduced legislation with Senator Joe Manchin to block the rule. His words were precise. "This is a classic bureaucrats know best effort by the FAA regarding the personal health of those in the aviation industry." The House passed a companion bill by voice vote on February 11, 2014. But here is the counterintuitive part. The pilots won, and then they got a better rule. On January 23, 2015, the FAA announced the policy that still governs today. No pilot is disqualified for BMI alone. Instead, your aviation medical examiner uses an integrated assessment: your history, your symptoms, your physical exam, the stop bang questionnaire. They look at neck circumference, BMI, whether you snore, whether you've fallen asleep while talking to someone. If your risk profile is high enough, you get your medical certificate and a 90-day clock to complete a formal sleep evaluation. If the evaluation finds sleep apnea, you need treatment. Typically a CPAP machine, and you need to demonstrate compliance. 75% of sleep periods, at least 6 hours per night, target apnea-hypopnea index under 5 on the machine. Minimum 30 days of verified data before your special issuance is restored. That seems reasonable. That seems like a system that works, except for one thing. From the moment a pilot is diagnosed with sleep apnea, they cannot exercise the privileges of their certificate until that 30-day minimum of compliance is done and the paperwork is processed. A sleep study costs between $1,000 and $3,000. A CPAP costs another $500 to $1,000. The certification gap can stretch weeks. During that time, no flying, no income. In aviation, sleep isn't a personal problem. It's a systems failure waiting to happen. But here is what that creates: A pilot who suspects they have sleep apnea has a direct financial incentive not to find out. The screening is designed to catch the disease. The economics of the job are designed to hide it. The annual exam is not there because the FAA doesn't trust pilots. It's there because the system knows that some pilots, for entirely rational reasons, cannot be trusted to report it themselves. Here is the final piece. Sleep apnea is not a condition you develop once and then have forever at the same severity. It is a progressive disease. Your airway changes as you age. Weight gain tightens the anatomy around your throat. Alcohol relaxes throat muscles. A 2018 meta-analysis found that people who drink alcohol have a 25% higher risk of developing sleep apnea. Each of these variables, age, weight, alcohol, shifts the disease year by year, sometimes in ways you cannot feel. A pilot can pass their sleep apnea screening at 44, gain 15 pounds over a difficult winter, drink more heavily during a period of personal stress. Show up at 45 and be a completely different physiological case. The annual cadence of the Class 1 medical is not bureaucracy. It is built around the biology of how this specific disease progresses. And there is one more thing to understand. Pilots are not tested for sleep apnea because the FAA thinks pilots are uniquely prone to it. They are tested because pilots are the one remaining part of the aviation system that does not have a redundant backup. Every hydraulic system has a backup. Every navigation system has a backup. Every engine has a backup plan. But there is only one captain in the left seat. That seat cannot fail. Aviation is an engineering discipline that was applied to human beings. 2 pilots in the cockpit. That's redundancy. Captains and first officers eating different meals on long-haul flights, so food poisoning cannot take out both at once. That's redundancy too. Controlled rest protocols, where one pilot sleeps in a designated window while the other maintains the aircraft. More redundancy, built straight into the human schedule. The sleep apnea test is the same philosophy. It is not a health screen. It is a reliability test. The question the aviation medical examiner is actually answering is whether this component of the system will perform to specification for the next 12 months. Can we trust this part? In aviation, sleep isn't a personal problem. It's a systems failure waiting to happen. And the annual exam is how aviation engineers the human, the last single point of failure in a cockpit designed to have none. Captain Scott Altman woke up 26 nautical miles past Hilo. He turned the plane around. He landed safely. Nobody was injured. 3 months later, a sleep study found what his medical exams had not. The system eventually worked. But it worked too late to matter for the flight, and it only worked because the plane happened to wake the crew before the fuel did not. Today, that does not happen at 5:40 a.m. without a prior screening. It does not happen without a year of verified CPAP data. It does not happen without a doctor asking the right questions on the right form. In aviation, sleep isn't a personal problem. It's a systems failure waiting to happen. The annual test exists because Go Airlines Flight 1002 proved it. If this made you think differently about what happens before the cockpit door closes, the next video is probably going to break your brain. We're going to talk about why pilots on the same flight eat different meals,